Just want to give you a brief update on where we are on some of the related issues around the storm, not related to these buildings here for a minute. First, I just want to say, we've been at this now for a little over 24 hours, and as governor, I continue to be moved by the courageousness of Vermonters. And just driving up here, I called Mayor Loris down in Rutland, and he was up in Mendon at the water facility because they're concerned that they only have 2 or 3 days of water left for Rutland, and we're trying to figure out how to navigate our way through that one. But I was asking him about how the family was doing of the employee of the water department that drowned, and of course we're looking for his 25-year-old son. And he said, I'm standing right here next to his brother, the surviving brother, Tommy. I said, put him on the phone. And I talked to Tommy Garofano. And this is the spirit of Vermont. He's lost his dad. He's looking for his brother. He's upbeat, high spirits, and nothing's going to stop him from finding his brother. So all I can tell you is that's the spirit of Vermont. That's going to get us through this crisis. And obviously our hearts go out to all the families who are really feeling the extraordinary loss of their loved ones. This is a tough, tough battle for all of us. I want to give you some news of how we're doing. First of all, some good news in terms of the recovery effort. And I just continue to be amazed by the volunteers, not obviously our National Guard, Red Cross, emergency management, our municipal and state workers, highway crews, and others, the people around these buildings who are working so hard to empty them out. And the Vermonters who just keep coming up to me and saying, hey, I just emptied out my garden and took it down to a neighbor. We're doing what we can to help. We're digging out. We're clearing mud. We're doing it for folks we don't even know. And that's the Vermont spirit. Our utility crews have now gotten us down to, from 50,000 roughly without power, down to 20,000 Vermonters. They're making great progress. As you can imagine, the biggest obstacles right now are communities that we can't get to by road in order to get those poles and wires up. But both municipal and state highway crews are working hard to get them into the blast areas that we need to get the last 20,000 up. So we've gone from 50,000 to 20,000 who are out of power. The following roads have been opened up since last we spoke, late yesterday afternoon. Route 141 in East Wallingford area is open. Route 302 in Groton is open. Route 100 south of Waitsfield, as you know, is now open. Route 12 between Bethel and Randolph and Route 17, Starksboro area, opened. Waters have receded on the Battenkill River, and Route 7A in the town of Arlington is open. In addition, US 7 between Arlington and Manchester is now open for two-way traffic. That's a good development. Route 7 in Brandon and Rutland still has areas that are closed, but traffic, including tractor trailers, can detour around the closed areas, so we're getting them through those areas. I had an extraordinarily gracious call from the President last night. President Obama has offered to help us in any way he can. As you know, he's sending in his FEMA director today, and he says there's no limit to the amount of help that they'll give us. And I just want to tell you how grateful I am to the President of the United States for his concern about Vermont. And as far as I'm concerned, the federal government gets an A+ from President Obama on down for their cooperation and their partnership in this restoration effort that we're undertaking. A few other facts. Driving up here, I passed some of the 30 emergency management trucks that are arriving from out of state. They're carrying emergency supplies that are scheduled to arrive here throughout the day. We're going to get them into the communities that are still isolated. The FEMA vehicles are carrying food, blankets, and other necessary items, and they're going to establish a distribution center, which General Doobie is coordinating, up at Camp Johnson in Colchester. We're going to get those supplies out as quickly as we know how. Some communities are unreachable by roadways, so we've dispatched additional helicopters to help get supplies into those communities. I've heard, mostly on the national press, that there are folks who can't get to who have medical needs that can't be met. This is not true. If you know anybody who needs medical help and can't get it, dial 911 or 211, and we'll get a chopper in there immediately. But there is an interesting national story being suggested that, you know, we have communities so isolated that we can't get them help. We have Red Cross in those communities. We have National Guard in those communities. We have choppers that can land in those communities at any time, so we can get anyone out anytime. We've got the backup helicopters being provided to get that done. Three, obviously we're continuing to assess the damage. We're hearing about isolated pockets that are stranded. And the most important thing is, if you are in need of help, let us know, because we will get to you immediately. The Department of Insurance, BISCA, has a consumer hotline pertaining to insurance issues. Many Vermonters who have been flooded are wondering, what next? Where do I get help? 802-828-3302, or toll-free, an 800 number, 800-964-1784 for immediate questions on insurance. And finally, we want to remind businesses across the state, because we know there was a lot of coverage yesterday on other issues, that we have set up, reactivated the emergency business loan program for Vermont businesses that need cash immediately. Call VITA, go to the VITA website, you'll see the details there, but that's up and running so that we can get our businesses that are struggling and trying to get resources immediate help. In terms of the visit here, we're just going to go through not only the state hospital, but some of the other buildings. I want to thank the extraordinary effort being made by the secretary, the commissioners, all of the employees who are working so hard. We're getting calls from state employees in the spirit of Vermont saying, hey, you know, I'm home. I understand I can't report to work. I'm on the payroll. Where can I go and help? So we're going to be setting up a plan to make sure that everyone has a place to go to help us dig out from this mess. But we're going to go in and I'm going to ask Secretary Racine to say a few words about where we are in this building, State Hospital, and the efforts there.
Governor, just quickly, we're getting a lot of feedback at Channel 3 about people and your comments over whether or not people are stranded. Are people stranded? What do you say to families who feel like they are?
Well, listen, anyone who feels stranded, let's define the word stranded. And I think that's where the debate is, and let's not have a debate. By stranded, if you mean that if you have medical needs, you can't get help. If you need food or water, you can't get help, you've got to call either 911, 411, report that, will get you aid immediately. We have National Guard on the ground, we have resources from other states on the ground, we've just brought in 30 additional trucks, relief vehicles, we can get them to any community in Vermont. So the point is, what do we mean by stranded? If stranded means that you cannot drive in your vehicle to a hospital or to a nearby community, that is true. If stranded means that you're left up there with no help, that is not true. We can get a chopper into any place in Vermont right now, and if you need us, we'll be there.
How many communities and which communities are cut off from the transportation network?
Well, we have 11 communities right now who are cut off from the transportation network. Actually, 12.
12. Where are they concentrated, and what are they?
They're concentrated everywhere from here to southern Vermont, and I usually have a list in my pocket, but Sue Allen can get that to you. I know a lot of them, but I don't want to leave anybody out.
Okay, and when we talk about stranded, we're talking about cut off from the...
Is that you cannot get in your vehicle and drive the major highways, Route 9 and others, to communities that have hospitals and medical care. So, you know, obviously those are the communities that we're going to get to first to get temporary bridges and roads functioning.
Okay, and I assume AOT is working on fixing those roads.
Absolutely.
So that,
And you know, we understand the challenges that we have. I don't want to minimize the challenge. I do want to make clear, particularly in the national press, that this notion that we have communities who have people on dialysis that can't get help, that are, you know, are having major medical conditions and can't get help. This just isn't true. If you are in that situation, call 911. We'll have a chopper in there so fast you won't know what happened.
Have there been any examples when you sent somebody in to rescue somebody either giving birth or on dialysis?
Not that I can recite for you right here. No.
Governor, talk about this specific location. What critical infrastructure has been lost? Is it backed up anywhere? This area is prone to flooding. Is this the best place for state offices?
Well, you know, you could say that about all the communities. Let's go to your last question first. If we're going to start quarterbacking where we've put our buildings over the last 200, 250 years, we got a long press conference today. I think we have to accept the fact that Vermont is made up of small rivers and brooks that feed into major tributaries. And in a storm like this, and I assert that this is the most intensive flood that Vermont most probably has ever experienced. I say that because when you go to the town of Wilmington as an example, which I did yesterday, and you go to Town Hall, as long as I've lived in Windham County, there's been a little painted marker on the side of Town Hall and the police station that says flood of 1938 water level. Well, the water level went over that by 1.5 feet. So the point is, there's a lot of evidence that we just received the worst flooding in Vermont history. When you get the worst flooding in Vermont history, you wish that your buildings were not in the way of water. But unfortunately, that is about 40% of the state of Vermont, and we can't move that. So let's go back to the first question. We are digging out here as fast as we can, clearing out the buildings of debris, mud, and muck, like so many other Vermonters. And we are backing up and trying to bring back the IT challenges that we have. And we believe we'll get there, but there is going to be some delay in getting out checks and resources that are needed to Vermonters. So we're asking for some patience and some tolerance during this time. But this team around me is working as hard as they know how to get these buildings cleaned up, back up and functioning, so we can bring back our state hospital patients, and so that we can bring back the state employees and get back to work.
Is that IT information backed up elsewhere in Vermont, or have we lost it for good?
I'll turn it over to the Secretary of Administration.
It is indeed, and we are making rapid progress. My understanding was the Department of Public Safety, which is also part of this complex, got their email back up last night. We have the Secretary of the Agency of Natural Resources, Secretary of Agency of Human Services, and their IT team's been working with the Department of Information and Innovation. They brought in high water vehicles, got their equipment. First of all, they were, when the water was coming up Sunday night, they carried the equipment up to higher floors. And that is being reassembled in Montpelier. The staff has been using workarounds, and actually they're working as hard as they can to make sure that we not only get email up, but that payments and so forth are processed as in a timely fashion. And I think we'll start seeing results of that as we did last night with DPS coming up on their email with others throughout the day today and tomorrow.
Governor, do you have any rough estimate for how much damage there is monetarily?
No idea. And really, we're just moving from crisis management, from getting people out of harm's way, from finding victims of the storm and getting people stabilized to the recovery. We're moving actively into the recovery stage, and we'll be coming up with dollar amounts, but it's going to take us weeks to sort through this one. This is the biggest storm that's hit Vermont. I would assert that Vermont got whacked by Hurricane Irene as hard as any other state, and perhaps harder per capita than any state. So we got our challenges ahead.
Have you considered at all calling a special session? Because obviously the state's going to have to, even a 25% share is going to have to come up with a lot of money.
Well, the president has really been extraordinary in his support for us. And we're having discussions about dollars and cents, as you can imagine, and I'm not going to get into specifics, except to say that I think many of the New England states are going to need financial help as a result of this storm that hasn't already been budgeted at the federal level or the state level, and I hope even at the federal level is going to carry the brunt of the challenge.
Do you think you have enough resources right now with the FEMA folks coming in? You got the National Guard, you got state workers. Are you calling around for more bodies, more resources to help with the emergency phase here?
We did that yesterday.
Yeah.
And frankly, after surveying the damage yesterday, we concluded that we needed more resources. Mentioned that to the President, the Secretary Napolitano, who I spoke with, and they got those resources to us, and they're coming up the highway right now.
Those are the FEMA folks?
Those are the FEMA folks.
Yeah.
They've made clear that they'll give us whatever resources we need. Really the next stage is going to be bringing in engineers, bringing in construction workers, and starting to rebuild. One of our challenges is, as we know, it's starting to feel more like fall than summertime in the evenings, and we're going to be into winter before we know it. We've got a lot of highways to rebuild, bridges to rebuild before snow starts to fly in Vermont, so that's our next challenge.
People concerned about paychecks and benefits at home, they're all over our Facebook page. What do you say to them? Will they come on time?
We are going to get checks out as quickly as we possibly can. We've got to get our IT restored, but we obviously don't want anyone to be without benefits that they need, and we're working as fast as we can.
How long will the communities that have been cut off be in that situation, do you think?
As short as possible. Literally,
Any time frame?
we're in those communities right now trying to get them access. That's transportation agency's top priority, and they're all over it.
Have you flown a helicopter into any community to rescue anyone at this point?
No.
No. Okay.
You mean as the state?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Not the choppers we were on yesterday. You know, I'm not going to answer that because
Okay.
I haven't asked.
Okay.
I'm sure there's instances where we put choppers in communities to get folks out, but I just can't tell you where.
Okay.
You said on Sunday, I think, that there was a woman in labor in Wilmington, was it?
Dover. Yes.
And did she get out? I mean, she okay? She had a baby?
She got out. She had the baby. You know, one of the things I got to say is definitions matter here. Wilmington, for example, is isolated from the communities it usually goes to, Brattleboro and Bennington. However, you can get from Wilmington to North Adams, Massachusetts, which has a very capable hospital, by simply getting in your car and driving there. So, you know, again, it's not the patterns we're used to, but in many communities in Vermont, you can still get the help that you need before we fix the roads.
Do you know the total number of people who are involved in some kind of assistance right now?
I have no idea. We're bringing people in from out of state. I just don't know the totals.
How does the